Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and I have asked Ms. Maria Roach to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's board meeting. This is a meeting of the board, which is held in public to comply with the Open Public Meetings Act. We allow opportunity for the public comments later in the agenda. If you would like to address the board, please fill out the white card with a blue border, and it is in the back of the door. And if you'd like to speak to an agenda item, please indicate on the card, and your name will be called at that portion of the agenda. You will have 3 minutes to speak. If you are a student, please check the student box on the card. And let's see, due to the usually high number of public comment cards submitted, we're going to ask that the students address the board first, and this will allow them to return home to get the rest they need for school tomorrow. So if you would like to speak to an agenda item, please do mention that on the card. And let's see, just as a reminder, the comment session is an opportunity for the board to hear and listen for understanding. We will not be responding tonight. There will be community conversations which we'll discuss in detail later. And also, we'd like to ask that the comments be kept respectful and not mention names of present or past employees, nothing derogatory, and we would appreciate that. Let's see, Dr. Watts, are there any changes to the agenda tonight?
Yes, President Venkat, members of the board, Ms. Halley, community members and friends, there is a supplemental personnel report and minutes from the May 16th special meetings and the May 18th executive session that have been added to the agenda.
All right. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the change to the agenda, please.
I so move.
And is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any questions, discussions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Okay, motion passes. We are up to 2.0 recognitions. Before we start, I just want to mention to the students that photographs will be taken after the recognitions of our award winners. And we are also going to ask you to meet with Kathy in the back of the door. And she's raising her hand right now. So if all the students can make sure that your paperwork is turned in before you leave. And you may feel free to leave after the photographs, okay? So I want to announce our Soames Scholarship Award recipients. And typically this is done during graduation, but due to some technical issues, we need to announce it earlier. And so annually, the Kent School District Board of Directors recognizes school board scholars from the graduating class. The scholarship is based on scholastic qualifications, financial need, school involvement, interviews, as well as a written essay demonstrating how a college education will benefit the student and society. So I'm going to start mentioning the names of the students who are this year's first place recipients of an $1,800 scholarship from the Harry B. and Ruby T. Soames Educational Trust Foundation. And so when I announce your name, please come up to the podium and I will give you your award. All right, the first person is Stephen Watson from Kentwood High School. Sit here. Next person is Jasleen Burke from Kentridge High School. Next is Ariel Johnston from Kent Lake High School. Yasur Aldahi from Kent Meridian High School. And Jamie Jackson from Kent Mountain View Academy. Sienna Im from Kent Phoenix Academy. Maria Tizak Para from iGrad. Well, Maria could not be here, but she was a wonderful speaker at last night's Rotary, so we congratulate her. Now we're going to announce the following students as this year's second place recipients of a $900 scholarship from the Harry B. and Ruby T. Soames Educational Trust Foundation. And we'll start with Simranjeet Sidhu from Kentwood High School. Next is Jaden Christie, I hope, Kentridge High School. Eden Dowse from Kent Lake High School. And finally, Christian Ortiz from Kent Meridian High School. All right, we'll be taking photographs, I guess, if everyone can move forward. I neglected to mention that we'd like to excuse Director Denise Daniels tonight. She's away on a much-needed vacation. All right, we're up to 3.0 presentations, and we'll begin with our Professional Development Executive Report. And Ms. Mariah Martin and Dr. Luann Decker will present and will be available to answer questions by the board.
Should I repeat? Is this it? No. Yeah. Go. All right.
Good evening, President Vengadalasalam, board members, Dr. Watts, Ms. Halley. We're here tonight to provide the annual update from the Department of Program and Professional Development. On the dais, you have an executive report that was developed by Dr. Onsing, who unfortunately is not able to be here as she's on some extended leave. But she wanted to be here and certainly put a lot of work into that executive report, so I wanted to make sure that you knew that she's responsible for all of that hard work. We have partnered tonight, Dr. Decker and I, to share an overview of the services provided to our entire workforce. And tonight is designed to speak about 17-18 and then also to talk about what's going to happen as we move forward to 18-19. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the wonderful work that we've done in professional development in 17-18. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Decker.
The work of the Program and Professional Development Department is aligned to, very much like every other department, but specifically aligned to Goal 1 and Goal 4 of our KSD Strategic Blueprint. As Dr. Watts frequently mentions, there's two types of employees in the Kent School District. Those that directly serve our children each and every day, and those who directly support our children in their classrooms each and every day. And this systems approach infrastructure that Dr. Onsing developed with PD, means professional development, all teams, and PD councils, is actually a representation of stakeholders to really bring together all of our employee groups. These participants on these councils, and it starts on page 17 in your executive report, and you can see those lists of stakeholders. And this group comes together after we survey the needs of our employee groups for their professional learning. And then this group meets with the professional development providers about what will happen next to develop that workforce professional learning for each of our employee groups. So one of our changes that we did this year was a structural change and a critical structural change for our leadership team. We implemented a new structure. We went to one-day-a-month meetings to include, we called it system coherence, vertical articulation, and levels meetings. And this new structure allowed for workforce development of both our principals as well as our assistant principals, and leadership development within our assistant directors, directors, and executive directors in central office. And this really allowed both principals and assistant principals to hear common messages with one voice and allow that professional learning for each of those employee groups. Vertical articulation means that occasionally we would put principals in their feeder patterns of elementary, middle to high school for some of those conversations, as well as their levels, where they meet just with elementary principals, just with middle, or just with high school. Starting on page 24 of your report, we have a detailed description of our KSD Professional Development Plan from 17-18. This plan was developed in collaboration with all of our employee groups and was shared in detail in the fall. So a part of the workforce development of our professional development and program department is also our teacher mentor program. As most of you are aware, KSD is a recipient of the BEST grant. And this BEST stands for Beginning Educator Support Team. And there are not many educator acronyms that actually mean exactly what the acronym says. These are truly our teacher leaders that are supporting the beginning educators in our system. And we have actually each of them here tonight. And so I'd like is our teacher mentor specialist to please stand to be recognized. Starting on the left, we have Melanie Reedy, Hillary Anderson, Laura Maroos, Lisa Doyle, Chell Rowe, and Stacy Greenwich. So thank you very much. So the purple sheet in the back of your summary provides an really a detailed description of what these teacher mentors do each and every day. Regular observations and feedback around best practices for our first and second year teachers. Support through our CEL, which is our instructional framework. So all the feedback they give our classroom teachers, our new classroom teachers, is through our instructional framework. And you heard a little bit about it during the 5:30 meeting, but they also do master teacher observations with reflection. And what that means is we actually pay for a substitute to take over that new teacher's classroom. And our teacher mentors have found another amazing KSD teacher for that new teacher to go observe, who's the same grade level, same content area, and so they can really see those practices in action and then come back and do that reflection. So really job-embedded learning. Now, the mentor program is just one part of our KSD induction program, and our data shows that our first-year teachers stay with this kind of support. Our 16-17 to 17-18 data shows our first year's teacher stay rate is about 79%. And what we know is research from the Carnegie Foundation says that teachers will stay for 3 reasons: administrative support, community belongings, and a sense of efficacy when a teacher believes in their own ability to guide their students towards success. And our qualitative data, based on the feedback from surveying our year 1 and year 2 teachers, is captured in the very last page of your packet. And I just want to read one quote that during the survey, one of our new teachers wrote. The mentor program exceeded my expectations and provided the support I needed. The mentor program helped me develop as a teacher from the level I was already at. My mentor helped challenge me and made me become more reflective. Now, each of us would hope we have a mentor in our lives that have that kind of impact. Another one of our regional-wide supports is our Principal Mentor Program. This supports our new principals, new to KSD or new principals in the profession in their first 3 years in Kent School District. We have 5 practicing principal mentors who mentor and support up to 3 mentees each year. And so I would like our principal mentors to please stand. Thank you. We have Principal Mike Albright and Principal Kathleen Landowski, who are able to be with us tonight. Unfortunately, due to family conflicts, we're missing 3. But I do want to recognize Dean Ficken, Beth Wallen, and Patty Drobny for their leadership and support and sharing their leadership and knowledge as practicing administrators in the practice, supporting our new principals in KSD. Just as part of their training, they attend a professional development on coaching and mentoring. And even though we haven't done our qualitative survey yet this year, that's done in the second week in June, what we do know is that of our principals that were hired in 15-16 with their 3 years of support, we have an 88% stay rate, with 7 of the 8 are still employed with Kent School District. This is our year-to-date spending on professional learning in the Kent School District. You're actually going to notice this is broken down and separated by investment because some of these are funded by grants, some of it are funded by basic ed dollars, and so you're going to see it's broken into how we support our Washington State learning standards, how we support professional learning communities, our Self-5D, which you heard about earlier in the spring, and any sort of additional professional development. And this was updated as of March. These are 2 of the grants that directly support our professional learning, kind of related to those 2 programs I just highlighted. The BEST grant and Title IIA fund our staffing for the Teacher Mentor Program, and Title IIA and TPEP support our funding for the Principal Mentor Program.
So really excited about the wonderful work that has been supported by quite a few different funding sources. And I think that Kent works really diligently to ensure that every single funding source is utilized fully to ensure professional development for its entire workforce. So as we look forward to 18-19, will professional development continue? And it's a resounding yes. Absolutely. We're going to do some wonderful professional development. As we move into the new organizational chart, what will that look like? What does that mean for our workforce? Well, first thing it means is it's for the entire workforce, and that's an important component. As we go back to Goal 4, and the board led us in this work of the strategic plan, Goal 4 is to recruit, hire, develop, and retain a diverse and premier workforce. And it's important that we develop our entire workforce. And so as we go back to, don't get sick, I know I'm going through the slides quickly. Let's see, as we go back to this last piece, our district initiatives, what we develop, transforming teaching and learning. Absolutely, it's what we do. It's our bread and butter. It's what a school district does, is teaching and learning. It's also important to build the capacity of the entire workforce, to build those pipelines, to ensure that people have the opportunity to continue to improve in their skills, develop those skills, move into leadership positions should they desire that opportunity, and provide that opportunity and access so that they can do that. And then customizing PD in schools and work sites. This does not mean that we're moving to all online PD. There are some times when online PD makes sense, particularly for some compliance pieces. For instance, we do what every employee must be told through HR as soon as employees are hired. But most PD should be job embedded alongside elbow to elbow work, and we want to continue that work. We also want to continue to think about ensuring that all of our staff continue to work in their place of work, and we're not overutilizing substitutes. So we're thinking through how can we ensure that all of our staff have the opportunity for high quality professional development, and that our students continue to have that wonderful, effective teacher in front of them every day or as much as possible. And so as we move forward into next year, we've listed just some of the next steps, but the focus will be transforming teaching and learning, building capacity of the entire workforce, and customizing our PD. So who's leading this work? Well, we are bringing on board very soon, and we'll be announcing that, our Director of Teacher and Leadership Development. That person will also be working alongside of our Assistant Director of Classified Development as they map out the professional development with all 4 communities together. So where does PD live? It lives everywhere. It lives in every single community. In teaching and learning, there's a focus on providing high-quality professional development for our teachers, for our paraeducators, for anyone who is working with teaching and learning. As we talk about our organizational effectiveness and our IT group and finance and food nutrition services, all of those groups have needs and have ways to provide support for professional development, particularly with our IT group as we think about how they support that work. And then certainly with our student and family support services as we move forward with social and emotional learning. And in our needs-based survey that we did to develop the PD plan, that was a huge need, and we heard from our entire workforce. Teach us about cultural responsiveness, teach us about social emotional learning, teach us about those things that will help all students be successful. So PD exists in every community. Teacher, Director of Teacher and Leadership Development, and the Assistant Director will be housed in Human Resources as part of Goal 4, but they are expected to work alongside of the 3 other communities serving those needs. Our mentor teachers and our mentor principals will certainly be a huge part of that work. So we're excited to share with you more in the fall of what this looks like and the full use of all of our funding sources to make that happen. We will continue to refine and adjust programs to match mentoring and programming needs, and continue to develop our leaders at all levels of the organization. It's not just how do we get an AP to a principal or a principal to central admin. It's at every single level building that leadership development. So with that, be happy to, Dr. Decker, please join me, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have a question of the BEST grant. When is that just a 1-year deal? Is it sunset? Do we renew it? What?
Yes. Yes, it is multiple years. There was lots of questions in there. Yes, it is a multiple-year grant. Kent School District continues to be eligible and is a recipient. So we will complete our 18-19 application here by the end of June to support that same high-quality mentorship and support that we've had in the past.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's questions I had. So.
Okay. Well, did a question on a couple of the 2 slides combined that talked about the total investment. Added all up year to date, I think it's like $540,000 that we're spending. What does full year spend look like? And then what % is from Gen Ed versus the other funding sources that are mentioned, the grants, Title IIA or TPEP?
So I will have to get back to you on our total amount. However, I can tell you that I think I had the best amount in here.
It's the next slide.
Yeah, so this,
So the majority of this is funded through these grants entitled to a fund.
correct.
And I will say, we are looking to fully utilize our Title II and depend less and less on basic ed dollars for professional development. And there are a lot of allowable expenses for Title II that we haven't fully accessed in the past. We started accessing those this year to include recruiting for high-need staff in dual language and special education. And so fully utilizing that, we also have funds from other areas with ELL and multilingual and Title I and Mr. Vela could. Title III and LAP. So lots of funding sources. And we're actually pulling together all those different funding sources and saying, okay, how are we utilizing that? And do we have two things working for the same purpose, or should we be more efficient in thinking through allowable expenses, what should be the appropriate funding source, so that we're fully utilizing those other categorical funding sources instead of the dependence on general education dollars.
And the overall question, let's say run rate's about the same. We're spending, I don't know, $700,000 a year through all the funds together. The high dream question, if you will, is that enough? How much more would you like to spend if you had the money? And what would you spend it on that you're not doing now?
Well, I think the first thing that we would do is work with our staff to determine areas of need. I think before we could ever speak about where we would spend the money, having a clear understanding of where they feel their needs are. But also we know that there are several initiatives rolling out. And then we have to think about the format as well and what makes sense on a format. There are some opportunities where online learning makes sense. And we've actually had staff say, let's utilize some online learning more. Other times it doesn't make sense. And so face-to-face learning always costs a bit more for a variety of reasons. If we do it after hours, you're paying per diem and you're paying for instructors and things like that. So that would play a huge part in what the cost would be as well.
Thank you.
Karen already asked one of mine. I was just wondering if you could speak just a little bit more. I know this was, I think, the first year that we've done more not using substitutes, right? So how was that received by staff, or any changes that we've received for coming up in future year?
I think it was actually a very big culture shift. And yes, we did reduce down to 40 PD subs a day, working alongside of our Central Administration Center PD providers. Also, many of our principals are scheduling professional development. And what we began to realize is they were both requesting subs, and the numbers were continuing to go up. So we took a look and we said, okay, we really need to decrease this. Money not being the most important reason, really. It's about ensuring that that quality instruction happens every day. So we were seeing cases in the past where there would be 90 to 100 guest teachers in classrooms due to PD reasons. And we kept thinking, if we're about improving instruction and improving the learning experience for children, is this the best way to do this? And so really trying to think through how could we continue to provide high quality professional development, but not have our teachers in the classroom.
Thank you.
Not have.
And then I just had one other one. On page 12 of the executive summary, you gave a few things on the status of different things with goal alignment. And for example, the 2 professional development councils. So those are ongoing councils, right? And how often do they meet? And just a little bit more about those.
I would have to have Dr. Onsing here for that because she does lead each of those groups, but I can certainly get that information for you.
Appreciate it.
Okay. I don't have questions necessarily. I do have some comments. I think I mentioned this before last year, but we did have our mentor teacher speak, I think, previously, and that was really informative to hear from our mentor teachers to understand, what are the areas that they need assistance and where did it work and where it didn't work. But I guess I would like to dig a little deeper, and when the time comes, the reason I mention all of this is during a meeting with the teachers, there were several new teachers who said, we don't get the assistance after year 2. We don't get the support. And so I wonder if we've done any tracking of, our teachers' retention after the first year and the second year. And if we could start separating out the exit interview information from teachers versus classified. And I think we usually lump it all together, right? Our exit
Actually, we do disaggregate by employee group, yes. And we will be presenting that in the fall, by the way, the exit survey data.
Okay, and so it'd be good to hear from our newer teachers the support and where, we could improve if they do leave us. What are the issues and concerns that they have? And then, let's see, and I guess the same holds true for principals. It would be important for us to get that disaggregated data. And we did also talk initially about an entrance interview. Has that gone anywhere? Entrance interviews for those who are coming in to kind of gauge how we've done by year 1 or year 2.
So entrance interviews as they enter the district? Okay. We've talked about stay interviews,
Yes.
and I think that we want to develop that work, and I think that next year is prime time to do that. I actually had a wonderful opportunity to get some HRPD in Seattle, and they spoke to the top 10 reasons why people want to work in that particular organization. And so they asked, well, how did you get that information? Well, we met with people and we asked those questions, and they were able to develop, and it can often be a recruitment piece that we share, but absolutely we want to do that work, and we look forward to sharing that with you when we talk about the exit surveys as the next leg of this journey.
Okay, all right, thank you very much for the report. Any other questions?
I was just thinking, on the councils, is that a term of office, or is it just, how do they get on the council and how long do they stay? Is there a turnover, required turnover?
I can speak a little bit to it in that I know that some of the councils, there's actually a representative from each building. So you're going to notice on that list, so some of the councils are a little bit larger. However, how frequently folks roll off or apply to be on, I will have to get that information from Dr. Onsi.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martin and Dr. Decker. Thank you. Thanks. All right, the next up is 3.02, our Kent Education Equity Partnership, KEEP for short, and they are going to present, the leadership team will present on their partnership with our Kent School District.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Okay. Well, first of all, I want to introduce those who are here with me. Oops, well, maybe you can just introduce yourselves and the name of your organization.
You start.
Okay, so my name is Miriam Munoz Roach, and I'm here with Central Rendu of St. Vincent de Paul.
Hello, I'm Mona Han with Coalition for Refugees from Burma.
You can do it.
Barbara Phillips with Community Network Council.
Community Network Council.
Okay, good evening. Marwa with the Iraqi Community Center.
And we don't have with us Hamdi Abdul with Somali Youth and Family Club, but she says hi. And before we get started, I just want to say that I really enjoyed the presentation on the professional development. For us, we are here because we want to help develop our parents as partners. Our parents want to be partners with you, the teachers, and with the principals to work towards closing the achievement gap. And in such a diverse district as the one we're in, to be part of new solutions that can be modeled in other districts is pretty exciting. So thank you for the opportunity. It's KEEP for short, Kent Education and Equity Partnership. And just very quickly, this picture was taken 3 years ago, so time flies, or just about 3 years ago. The Kent Education and Equity Partnership is committed to eliminating, is this thing on? Okay. It's committing to eliminating disparities in education, providing access to resources, and focusing on development of the whole child by building on authentic, culturally responsive family and community engagement strategies to close the opportunity gap for students in the geographic boundaries of the Kent School District. And this is us. We're going to go kind of quickly. And we, 2.5 years ago, we got the opportunity to receive funding from Race to the Top through the Roadmap project. And with that, we were able to work in 3 elementary schools, Kent Elementary, East Hill, and Park Orchard, on parent education, engagement, and advocacy. And we had wonderful results with regards to helping to increase levels of reading on ERLA especially, and so we do have a report that can be available to all of you. In the midst of that, we had the Gates Foundation joined in and provide us some extra funding to continue building the partnership. I'm going to do this one. Okay. Some of our work does targeted intervention with programs at the schools, reading programs at the schools the first year. Parent engagement and advocacy work with parent education and skill building, and capacity building for the collaborative to strengthen our collective voice, skill building, fund development for collaborative projects, sustainability, because we are here representing 5 groups. We work with Central Rendu works with the Latino community, Burmese community, African American community, Iraqi, and Hamdi represents the Somali community. But we know we have many more communities of color and ethnic groups in Kent, and so we are continuing to welcome others into a conversation as to how we can work together to strengthen our collective work. This is a fun picture because these cute kids dressed with their folkloric outfits are actually students from Kent Elementary, where we started a club, and they meet every Monday, and they're really cute. And last year they danced at the Cornucopia Days, but last year and this year they perform at the Multicultural Night in their school. And this is actually they went walking in Auburn. It was fun. But anyway, the other ones are the adults who are participating in some of our programs, and we also have youth who volunteer. Just quickly, we do see about 1,000 people in our center, which is located inside the thrift store, just straight down here in the corner of Central and Smith. About 1,000 families with all kinds of services, Spanish, cultural specific case management services, legal services, but adult basic education, GED completion, all that for adults, and then for the youth, we got some grants to work with at-risk youth, and we're going to share that information with all of you in just a minute. Yes.
So this is my organization, Coalition for Refugees from Burma. We have been in formal partnership with Kent School District for 8 years. I can't believe it's been 8 years since the 2010-11 school year. Initially, we started out partnering through the Refugee School Impact Grant, but now we have programming district-wide. We started out serving just Burmese refugees. Now we serve 17 language groups. One of our largest programs is at Kent Meridian High School, where we serve over 80 students every year. We do this year have 2 reading programs at 2 of the elementary schools at Meadow Ridge and Scenic Hill Elementary. We also provide case management services funded by the state of Washington for dropout prevention. So certain refugee kids, as most teachers know, come in and 18 or 19 placed in 9th grade, and they are not going to graduate by 21. So we do support them by, enrolling them in online services and academic programming. So our goal is for them to graduate with their friends, but if not, we enroll them in other high school completion programs. We also have been doing advocacy and leadership development because we feel that the voice have to come from the community. There has to be succession for people to step into the roles that we're doing. We do extensive parent education and engagement, especially one of our flagship programs now is the home visitors who are community leaders from multiple cultural communities, and they actually inform and inform us on the best practices to work with families when you could do home visits for getting their kids ready for kindergarten. And we also started this last school year 3 PD sessions for 3 hours each at Kent Meridian High School because we secured funding from King County Best Stars for Kids, trauma-informed and restorative practices. So we brought in community leaders from cultural communities and our students and have this candid, frank conversations with the school staff on our biases or things that might be portrayed as microaggressions. So those were well received by the community and also from the school.
So I apologize. I pretty much have lost my voice. I'm ill today, so Mona's going to capture some of the information. But just to give you a snapshot, we've been in partnership with Kent School District since approximately 2009, working at KM and East Hill Elementary. And this is a summary, and she has some other items she'll share with you.
So Community Network Council does really a great job with academic coaching and mentoring, especially for African American youth. We actually, partners, learn a lot from their programs. They do individualized mentoring in schools. They do very important for having the support network in the family, so they coach the parents and family as well. They are currently serving 45 KSD families. I'm sure it's more. But the schools that CNC is present are East Hill Elementary, Mill Creek Middle School, and Kent Meridian High School. They do provide case management services for families at East Hill. And for Wednesday early dismissal day, CNC provides homework assistance to 4th and 5th graders at East Hill, especially for math with emphasis on games and STEM and dominoes, chess, etc. And there are 4 peer mentors at Kent Meridian High School that assist with the program. And starting in June, there are identified Black students that attend Mill Creek and Kent Meridian High School, and they will participate in culturally responsive programs held on Saturdays that focus on Black history, artistic expression, mentoring, careers, and excursions. And this program, the goal is to empower students at the same time gaining knowledge on race and identity development while learning ways to address social justice issues.
The Iraqi Community Center has been around since 1999, providing social services to recent arrival refugees and immigrants. And we have the case management program, housing, and education. And for the education services, we do offer a weekly early learning parent workshops, and we call them community conversations. It's for parents with children 0 to 5 years old. And with our BSK grant, we started a parent-child home visit program. Our home visitors see about 30 children. 25 of them are Kent residents. And the Arabic language schools, which is happening at the Kent Phoenix Academy, it's been happening for this is its 6th year at the Kent Phoenix Academy. We serve about 120 students. It's led by parent volunteers, and those parents are teachers from Iraq, and they're working really hard to gain their teaching certificate in Washington State. And we just started our summer school, where we're getting ready to start our first summer school in Kent with the out-of-school time grant. And we do case management and the after-school program that will be happening at Daniels Elementary this year. Thank you.
So on behalf of Hamdi, I hope I can capture the work. The Somali Youth and Family Club has been well known in the community for providing mainly housing services, but they integrated education services with their housing services. And in Kent, affecting Kent families, they provide case management services, and they do after-school programming at the 2 low-income housing units. And we partner in one at Birch Creek Housing for they are doing STEM for grades 4 through 8, and we are doing reading mechanics from K through 3. And then Valley Key Housing grades 1 through 5. And they do provide a lot of community cafes where they get parents' voice to elevate as to what issues parents are facing in interfacing with schools. So we just wanted to also say that sounds like there's a lot of things that we do, and we do a lot of things, but that's based on so many grants combined with all our partners. We did some math, and we were surprised just this school year we are bringing in $1.46 million to the school district in services, mostly in staffing and supplies and snacks, and invested to support Kent School District students and families in this current academic year. A lot of the funding in this year is actually went up because of the King County Best Stars for Kids grant. That's multi-year funding, so we felt a little better and not chasing after one-off grants and Frankensteining into server program, or quilting, sounds better, to serve the families. And you want to talk about collaborative partnerships, or is that time? No.
Well, this slide is just meant to let you guys know that we are growing our partnerships. We are seeking to build relationships of trust and to build capacity to share resources and connections. And I just want to say, because I was thinking of, as my colleagues were talking, a lot of us do a lot of work to support families even with basic needs. I know that St. Vincent de Paul raises through their thrift stores and through literally passing the basket about $2 million in King County just for rental assistance and eviction prevention. So a lot of that, when there's kids who are struggling in the school, since we have the program here in Kent, we get referrals straight into our, those programs. And I know the Somali Youth and Family Club does a lot of that too. So just to highlight what Mona said, a lot of these dollars are coming from outside and they're benefiting the community here. So we're grateful for the collaboration, the partnership, and the growing opportunities to continue to collaborate. Also on systems change, because we also have struggled in the past to establish ourselves as organizations that can be equal partners in this work. And so that's improved, and we're very grateful for that. So this last slide just kind of highlights that, how, some things that we would definitely like to work in the future with regards to, perhaps data sharing agreements or MOUs that don't expire every year, and then every year with different staff changes and so forth, we kind of have to go back and wait. And so that sort of slows down the process. But we're definitely here to stay because we are in partnership with these parents, and the community needs us. So we play a kind of an important role as a bridge into closing the opportunity gap, in our opinion. So that's that. Thank you.
Yes. And I want to end with an invite to our annual iftar or dinner. As you know, it's the month of Ramadan, and the Muslim community is fasting. So I will have our annual iftar at the Kent Senior Center this Friday at 8:30. We would love to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
Yes, just writing down the information there. From the Central Rendu, you talked about youth volunteers. What do they do? How do you get youth volunteers?
Thank you. Yes, we actually, in the center, which sounds big, but it's actually a classroom and some case management and a childcare room. And some of the kids can help with childcare. I've actually had some Kim Meridian students come and help parents learn computers and help with learning English. And so all of the classes that we teach, we have partnership with the Mexican consulate. So we teach Spanish for parents who've never learned never had formal education, so they don't know how to read and write in Spanish. So I always say it's very hard when it's tough when people say, well, folks should know English, and people do want to learn, but it's really, really hard. And we have ESL, and we have GED and all these things, but people do come with challenged by the fact that they might have not had formal education in their country of origin. So we do provide Spanish, basic Spanish, how to read and write in Spanish for native Spanish, folks. So.
Thank you. And then from the Burma, you said you had trauma-informed practices presented at KM, was that right?
Yes, we just finished
Can teachers come from other schools to do that, or is that strictly for?
Well, it's a very small grant, $10,000 grant, and we have been kind of permanent fixtures at KM for the last 5-6 years. So we just targeted KM, and that's where a lot of our refugee and immigrant students were having challenges with misunderstandings. But we wrote the next round of trauma-informed grant to expand to other schools, and it's larger. The first round, I think it was a pilot from King County, so they just gave like a teaser. But we were able to do 3-hour PD on early release days, and we provided lunch for all the staff, 150 staff, and then we paid stipends to community leaders who graciously came and talked about, how best to serve their communities, because we don't know everything, although we serve kids from different cultures, so a lot of different cultural community leaders were there.
Thank you. On the CNC, you said you had, I'm trying not to make you talk too much, some peer mentors. Have you synced up with the Men on the Move at all? The young men who are working as learning social, emotional, having self-awareness and all?
Not at this time, but the plan is to embrace them into our Saturday program with the cultural identity portion of that.
Good. Okay, good. Going right down the line here. For the Iraqi, the parent-child home visit, how many home visitors do you actually have?
We currently have 3 home visitors. Yeah, each home visitor have about 14. One have 14, one have 8, and the other person has about 7.
Are you looking, I know it's an expensive program. Are you looking to expand that? Because it's really worthwhile.
Yes, so this is our first year receiving that grant, and hopefully next year we will be expanding.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I've got.
Well, thinking about, a lot of the work you've done, seeing what you've had to expand over the last 5 years, what are your needs that you see over the next 5 years, either additional services or additional partnerships that you see, not just next year, but as the community changes the next 5-7 years?
Well, I think when we're talking about family, it's a complicated matter. We started our program with the adults. We felt like, well, the school district has the kids, we're going to work with the adults. But as you work with family, you realize all the different, needs. And so we've expanded to have an at-risk youth program, and we've expanded to do, for example, at Kent Elementary, we do 25 home visits for academic support for 3rd and 4th graders. But the need continues to grow, so I think partnerships are great. We do outreach all the time, but sometimes I'm scared of doing outreach because it's like, how fast can you grow, right? We get waiting lists. The need is great. So we try to get funding, but, like all of us, that's always a challenge because the more funds you have, then the faster you can expand. So if there's, opportunity to partner in any of those, in anything, whether it's Title I, II, whatever, because the need is certainly there, and the capacity to organize the community, and I think that's the role that we play. You can always build a capacity of one parent or two parents, and we want definitely to increase the capacity of the parents. But with the process that we've created, with the programs and strategies, we're able to build a capacity of multiple parents at the same time to support each other as well. Because I always think that resources are always limited no matter what, so we have to organize the community to help each other as well. So one dream I do have, and then they can say what they want to say, but what I want to say is that I want to get all the Latino paraeducators in one room and share with them our strategy so we can do this work together. I'll take teachers too.
So for us, with the Kent Education Equity Partnership, the Gates Planning Fund allowed us to think big, which our trajectory that we're doing is we build 3 toolkits. One is early learning, and one is reading, and one is math. And they are all targeted for community leaders. We feel that learning is two-way, so we've been piloting them and incorporating from their feedback how best to work with their communities. So our goal down the line is if there's a need for paraeducators or parent leaders to know about what kind of toolkits and what information we can provide to better help parents. If there's a space in the table for us to even share and discuss, that will be really good, because we feel that partnerships are always better with the school than working in silos and school doesn't know what we're doing. And, even align with standards so we know what our learning goals are, meeting the school's outcomes. Yeah.
The one thing I would like to see is that our teachers are more engaged with African American students and families. We have a large number of African American students. The achievement gap is still there and exists. Our parents are not engaged, and we need to work towards unifying the school, the community, and work with these families. It's very difficult work, it's very challenging work, but to have people go to their homes, knock on doors, and help them identify where their students are. We tell them how to help them to be successful. So it's very challenging, and when you have resistance at the school, reluctancy from educators, from the principals at various levels, it makes it very difficult to get anything done, to be successful, to close the achievement gap. And the district really needs to look at who they're hiring, why they're hiring, and are they committed to equity? Because this still exists. The gap is there. Our African American students, our Black and brown students are not excelling. And that needs to change. I've been active in this community in 20 years, and it still has not changed. And we need to do something about that. So it's time to make some changes and work with the community to build this up.
I was just making sure that I didn't want to cut you off. You were coming up. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you. I appreciate all the work that you're doing, and I appreciate it, especially you putting out the things of how we can help support you better. One of the questions I had was in regards to when you say improve communication from the district. So I was curious what ideas you have, because I know that's one thing that we've talked about as a board of how do we do that communication, and it's not just translating something. So do you have any suggestions that you could provide on that?
Yeah, I think that's, and I'm glad you brought that up, because when we actually joined as a group, we felt like one of the goals that we had was to be a conduit into the community. So our communities are connected with other communities of color as well. And I know that it's easy to put an email out or Facebook post, but, a lot of our members, community members, don't have email. So even Skyward doesn't work for them. And that's not to say that Skyward is bad. It's just to say, how do we diversify a medium of communication? And so we hope to be a partner in that, so that we can be, do non-traditional ways of communicating with the community. So.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to say that when I met with KEEP members, it was highlighted to me the impact that KEEP has in our district, and many of us don't really know about our community partnerships, and this is how we find out, the impact that they've had. And it didn't happen overnight. It's been going on for years. And so I really thank you for all the work you do to help our teachers, our students, our families. And I just, you're the embodiment, I guess, of a true public-private partnership. And I just want to thank you formally for coming and for all the work you're doing for our district. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, 3.03, University of Washington P3 Executive Leadership Certification Program update. And Paige Meyer will present and will be available to answer any questions from the board.
Good evening, President Venkatasalam, members of the board, Dr. Watts and Karen. My name is Paige Meyer. I'm the Director of Early Learning for the Kent School District. I am here tonight to provide an update on the Kent School District's participation in the University of Washington P3 Executive Leadership Certificate Program. And I am joined by this year's participants in the program. They are over here to my left, and I'm going to briefly introduce them to you, and then they are going to be presenting as part of this presentation. So we have Catherine Geis, principal of Sunrise Elementary School, Brian Gabel, Assistant Director of Assessment, Krista Finney, who will not be talking tonight because she has gotten attacked by the cottonwood, Kathy Lindosky, principal of Lake Youngs, almost said Sioux Green, Cynthia Green, principal of Ridgewood Elementary School, and Marwa Sadiq. I call her the early learning director of the Iraqi Community Center. I think she wears many hats and has many titles. So anyway, as a reminder, the University of Washington P3 program, which I have presented on previously to this audience, was launched in 2014. It is a very unique and comprehensive program that addresses the leadership across the P3 or preschool through third grade continuum. It is pretty unique in the whole United States. It was funded and continues to be funded, at least until this year, by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It is a 10-month executive-style credit-bearing course of study. It is very rigorous, and the curriculum is grounded in child development and equity. All the participants do action research projects, which are going to be discussed this evening, and it's a very unique co-enrollment of principals, early learning directors from school districts, program managers from school districts, district central office administrators, community-based organization leaders involved in early learning, and also child care and early learning provider center directors from the community. So it's a real, what we say, cross-sector collaboration. So the participants in the program are equipped with knowledge relevant to preschool through third grade pedagogy, equity, data-driven decision-making, and policy around early learning. And when they leave the program, they have developed or honed their skills and dispositions and strategies for leading for change around early learning in school districts. Our cohort, sorry, forgot to change my slide. The cohort here on this slide. We are not joined by Sundi Law, the center director for Little Conks Childcare this evening. She had a loss in the family and was unable to join us. And Patricia Gilson, who is the education director at Kent Youth and Family Services, has moved on to Educare, and she is off at a conference somewhere practicing her new job. So what I can tell you that I think I am very proud of is that we have had 3 cohorts over the past 3 years with a total of 24 people from the Kent community, not just the school district, but the community that have participated in the program. The tuition has been paid for by the Gates Foundation. And within that 24 people, we've had 2 board members, Agda Burchard, former board member who is in the audience this evening, and Karen DeBruler, who continues to serve on the board. We've had 9 building administrators, 5 central office leaders, 4 community-based organizations, and 4 community preschool and child care center directors. To me, that's very exciting because that puts 24 people in our community who are practitioners and advocates for early learning and deeply understand the research and the critical need to invest in early learning interventions, because remediation is not as effective as being proactive upfront. So, over the past 3 years, we have had 5 different action research projects come out of our groups. And tonight we are joined again by this year's cohort to present on the action research projects that they are currently implementing. And it's exciting because those action research projects are being funded to actually happen by the Gates Foundation. So the first group is going to come up and talk about improving teacher effectiveness through strategic professional development in math instruction at the preschool level. What's exciting about this project is that it's a collaboration of Kent School District, certificated teachers, and also preschool teachers from KYFS, Kent Youth and Family Services, ECAP and Head Start, and the Covenant Kids Christian Preschool. Again, a true cross-sector collaboration. It's funded by Bill and Melinda Gates, and also other key partners in this project are Puget Sound Educational Service District and Washington STEM, who is involved in doing the evaluation, because this is a 3-year project. So I'm going to step aside and let the members of that group talk briefly.
We all know how important the quality of preschool is for young children, especially those from economically disadvantaged families. But this fact somehow becomes more real when we see evidence from our own school district. This slide over here, which we really can't see very well, is an extremely rare phenomenon. That kindergartners from low-income families who attend quality preschool programs can outperform the district average in multiple domains using the WA-Kids data. You can see. The takeaway is that low-income students from these preschool programs are entering KSD without an opportunity gap to close. That is how it should be. However, even with quality preschool, low-income students still have a small 4.1 percentage point gap between their math readiness and the district average. Therefore, our group decided to focus on improving mathematics instruction for preschool teachers serving low-income students. Talk to those points.
So as a group, we decided to instill or start the math labs through the KSD model, and was able to have this great funded, Gates Foundation grant funded. What that was a series of professional developments for our preschool partners with Kent Covenant, as well as our ECAP at Sunrise Elementary, and to have that throughout a 9-month period, and then with the hopes of it being a rollover grant so that we could have it run into Sunrise Elementary as well with our kindergarten teachers. So we had 3 preschools, 4 math labs over the course of the last 7 months, focusing on increasing teacher capacity and, of course, students' math skills. There's one more.
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, yeah. Do you want to talk about that?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
So anecdotally, what I can tell you is that what we see right now, and Krista and I have spoken pretty comprehensively on this, that the evidence of students talking and thinking like mathematicians is present now in our preschools. Our community preschool teachers are now aligning to Kent School District in their strategies, in their pedagogy, and in their methodology. And that's pretty exciting. So basically what we're doing is we're using the same vocabulary and we're talking the same language. There's a lot more intentionality now in how and what to teach in students, and that is present in preschool. And we also are seeing evidence of teachers creating environments for students to use their natural critical thinking skills and collaboration skills because of these math labs. It's a pretty exciting project.
We're at the conclusion of year one, and we do have funding for 2 more years to continue these math labs and build on what the teachers have learned. So we're pretty excited about that. The next group is a group that focused on social emotional learning and readiness for preschoolers coming into kindergarten in Kent, and I think we all know how important that is. So Cynthia and Kathy and Marwa are going to come and speak to that, and again, this is also made possible by the Gates Foundation.
Thank you. Good evening. We began our journey in February of 2017 with the University of Washington. And as we had presentations from professors and instructors across the country, and we read articles and texts and had time for reflection, the critical nature of the connection between social emotional learning and students' readiness for kindergarten was a key factor in the opportunity gap. And so we decided that this would be the area of our focus. We read a couple articles. One of them was social emotional learning as a public health approach to education, and linking social emotional development behavior to school readiness, that really brought it to the forefront of the connections between not only a student's success in kindergarten, but their success in life and beyond, and relationships. And so it really rose to the top for us. As we unpacked it, we really wanted to somehow create a tool so parents could learn about the importance of social emotional learning, and they could learn how to help their student, their child, develop some of those skills before they were in kindergarten. And so our project got really, really big, really, really fast, and we had to dial it in and really focus. And we decided to focus on 4-year-olds and incoming kindergartners, and for the preschools, their incoming 4-year-olds. And we created a tool that aligns with the Kent School District strategic goal number 1, which is college and career readiness. So once we got rolling and had our focus, we were pretty excited. I've been elected to speak because I don't know why, but I'll just keep talking. So we created a tool that we loaded onto a flash drive, has a title card, and on the back we have some growth mindset prompts for incoming kindergarten parents that we use at our orientation. Say and think this, not that. So one example might be say, what am I missing, instead of I'm not good at this. So we have prompts. We also wanted a card so the flash drive would just be less likely to be lost. So when you open up our tool, there's one instruction page with simple instructions on clicking on the dots to move back and forth, toggle within the tool to different topics. We also added a continue button in the corner. Even though it wasn't necessary, we knew we'd have parents that weren't necessarily familiar with PowerPoint. So if they had to click here, they would click and it would move on. So that is the format, and then they could, again, we learned how to toggle back and forth. If you were on page 16 and you wanted to go back to the topic on page 3, we learned how to put the dots in there to do that. So we got pretty excited as we went through. Once you're in the tool, it looks like this. And so if you, for instance, if you clicked on My Child's Development, which is the blue paint stripe, it would take you to a page, and you might click on Social Emotional Development. And if you went there, then you might see a page that looks like this. this is one of the examples. So a parent would see skill development in all these different areas. So not just how are they developing social emotionally, they might look at how are they developing with their relationship with their peers, or how are they developing in their interactions with adults. And so they could click on one of those links. And if they clicked on, if they clicked on it, a page like this would come up. So this skill was relationships with peers, and they could see the progression of development at 8, 18 months, and 36 months, which would give them an idea of not only where is my child, but if my child is here and I'm trying to teach them skills 2 columns over, it might be why we're all experiencing frustration. And so giving them some progression information. The tool is full of information. One of our concerns is it might be too much, so we're waiting to get feedback after parents have used the tools. So at both of our kindergarten orientations at Ridgewood and at Lake Young's, this is where we introduced this to our parents. The tool was ready a little bit after Ridgewood's orientation, so they're making this happen in a little different way. But we have a survey that we had, for instance, at our orientation. All the parents had a survey in their folder, and on the way out to pick up their incoming kinders to ride the bus, they gave us the survey, and we handed them, I didn't bring one up here. We handed them the flash drive. And so when they come back in the fall and do their WA Kids parent connection meetings, we have another the same survey for them to do. So we'll be collecting the pre and post. It's not going to be an extremely scientific research with a large group, but we will have some information on how it went and if it helped. We're not going to give out any surveys after July 1st, but we're still going to give the tool out for parents who register in August. Okay? We're very excited. We know we have other things to explore. As the previous group said, you can do so much with what you have at the time and the time that we had. Some things that we really wanted to look into, translations, getting the tool done in different languages. There's many, many layers to this, so that's a time thing, but we're also looking into that now, as well as the idea of maybe finding a phone application, because more people have access to smartphones than they do to computers. We also were starting to explore, besides letting parents know where they could access computers, like the library or the community centers, how could we provide training? How could we have a night where incoming kinder parents could come in and use the school computers to explore the tool? Or how could we have the tool on the website, more easily accessible? So we have a lot of questions. This isn't something that we feel like we wrapped it up neatly in a bow. It just led us to more ideas to come. And so we're very excited that our project came to life, and we're excited to hear feedback from our parents in the fall. Thank you.
I'm very proud of these 2 groups. This program and the funding has allowed them to engage in innovative work, and this second project is a pilot, and we'll learn a lot from it. So we're just at the beginning of that one. So thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer some questions now.
Looking at the math group, do we have ways that we're going to be tracking these kids over the next couple of years to see how they do in math?
Yes, we have partnered with Washington STEM, and we have a 3-year plan for tracking.
Because I know, the math scores that we've looked at from kindergarten, first, second, third grade go down, and so I'm really curious to see what happens here. I have high hopes.
We do too. We do too. It's a model that has been effective. That's why we chose to use it, because the data that we gathered on where we've already done this math lab model in Kent has shown that it has been effective, particularly with our students of color. So that's one reason why we chose it. And we will be tracking data in 2 different directions. One is actually teacher effectiveness. How are teachers feeling about their practice? And then also we can look at student scores and follow those cohorts and see how that works. So thank you.
And I love the social emotional whole thing. I'm really pleased with the ARPs that you both came up with. Congratulations.
Well, that's Action Research Project acronym.
Sorry, acronym.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Yes, for each of these groups, because you're at the beginning still, you're a pilot or you're 1 year in of the 3 years, what does the end look like? What does your success goals look like? So you showed about the district average, you're under in math. What is your goal? Is your goal above comparative to the other ones that you were showing, literacy, cognitive, whatever? What does that goal look like after 3 years? And then same thing with social emotional that you're handing out. What is the goal that you want to see at the end?
Well, I think the goal is that the kids are performing within the widely held expectations of the fall kindergarten entry assessment, WAKIDS. Right now, we have a large percentage of kids that are not falling within that age, within that widely held expectations. And so our hope would be that the kids that are being exposed to this that data would show that they are at grade level. Close the 4.1 that Brian discussed. I mean, we have WAKIDS, we have other ways of measuring performance. So, I mean, I think the goal is always at grade level and socially, emotionally well adjusted. I think you can measure that by attendance. You can measure that by our PBIS, MTSS, and EWIS data, all those lovely acronyms that are tools that we use to measure student behavior. So.
And for the interactive pre-K readiness resources, are you looking for increase in parent engagement, parent involvement? What does our end goal look like?
Well, our goal would be that parents would have easier access to resources and that it would increase parents' feeling of their ability to prepare their students appropriately for social emotional readiness. And this, the possibilities are endless. Our ultimate goal is that all students come to school ready to learn in the social emotional domain, and that we won't be able to predict by zip code who will be able to and who won't.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I very much like both projects. It's exciting as I look at even my own kids who have kids about in that age, that they're always looking for resources, and sometimes I think parents feel like having to look for a resource means that they don't know what they're doing. So how are we helping bridge that? Because I think that's a real thing, right? Parents are like, well, if somebody has to hand me a flash drive, then maybe they don't think know what I'm doing. So how do you approach it with parents when you're handing out the actual flash drives?
Well, when we have the group in front of us, the bulk of the parents, we explain this was a project and we really wanted to create a toolkit for them, and it really was a very positive thing. As parents come in one by one and register, we prepare our office staff to share that message. I don't think it has the same impact, but we have some talking points and hope that it comes across the same way.
I think it's a great resource, so thank you.
Yes, I agree that it is a great resource, and I'm always curious how we sustain these sort of programs, because they're valuable when we realize that in the first year, second year, and then something like the room, I don't know if you remember room.
I do. It's on the early learning webpage under parent resources.
Okay, all right. But we don't hear many of our parents using that anymore, or I don't know. That's what I understood.
I hope that elementary principals, it's on the flash drive, and elementary principals are reminded every spring to bring that up at their kindergarten orientations, and the orientations that I have attended, it is included in the PowerPoint because it is a very effective tool. And it is interesting because Best Starts for Kids is putting out another call for grants to activate that tool within school districts. I just got that this past week. Right. So it is still there, and I think that this particular tool can be molded in the spirit of room. I think that's a great model that this tool could aspire to be like. It's just a slightly different angle.
I was thinking, and then when you mentioned that the translation work is still under works.
It's, it's too early to translate this because it's still a pilot, so we need to vet it. And as Kathy was saying, it's got way too much stuff in it. It's so robust, it's fantastic. So we need to vet it and get feedback from parents and really see what is the most effective component before we invest the dollars in the translation. So at the moment, we have some ongoing Gates grant money that we're working with, but as with all grant-funded stuff, as Mona said earlier, you got to chase the dollars, and sometimes you want to chase the multi-year funding when it's there. So,
Thank you so much. For
you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. We are up to 4.0, our consent agenda. Is there anything in 4.0 consent agenda that the board would like to pull?
I pull 4.06 and 4.07, please.
That was the same for me.
6 and 4.07. And I would like to pull 4.04 and 4.05 on our special education. I lost my computer now. All right. Okay, I can see. That's good. So, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve 4.0 consent agenda minus 4.06, 4.07, 4.04, and 4.05.
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Okay, motion passes. I'd like to start with 4.04 and 4.05, inclusive education.
Cedar Heights. Cedar Heights Middle School and Schools Kitchen.
Okay, I have a different one here. I think it got moved. Okay, so it's 4.06, sorry, 4.07. Do we need to make a motion?
You can do it after you discuss all of them.
Okay. All right. The question I had on 4.06 and 7 with, pardon me, I'm still trying to. Right here. Yes, I was just wondering about the contracts. Every time I see an increase in funding or change orders on these contracts, I wonder about our assessment. Are we doing assessment on staffing versus going after contracting? So I'm just wondering if we've done any sort of analysis on these particular inclusive education contracts, and if we are communicating with staff on these contracts and how effective those are.
Yeah, so first let me address both of those. The first one, there is a typo in the recommendation in terms of the helpful hands. That is not an increase of 125,000, it's an increase of 25,000, the original it's correct in the grid, so I wanted to point that out. And that specifically is for short-term support for students that we're contracting out. That's not for long-term, so that's first. For the next one, which is Maxim, that one specifically really is moving to a different agency that's actually providing. We're actually shifting the dollars to another agency that's going to provide those services, so it's kind of like shifting the amount. So that's what I want to put on both of those. And President Bangadasam, to address your question, recall John Sander talked to us about we're always looking at how best to serve those students that are currently being served outside of our district. We talked about the fiscal note, and it makes more sense for us to be able to meet their needs here, and so that's constant. In addition to that, we know that it costs more to serve our students outside of our district, so we're constantly looking at that.
So the ideas that are brought forward from staff, are they vetted by executives or are they vetted by administrators? I'm just
So
curious.
are you speaking to the contracted staff? The
Placements,
contracted
too.
staff? Yes, so we work closely with all of our agencies that serve our students. The ones you see now are currently serving students. They're just increasing the support. It's either a student or two we're adding to it, or we're working with our agencies. So we're consistently working and vetting our agency staff.
Thank you. All right. Debbie 4.0.
No, I have additional questions.
Right, we have additional questions on those, because we also pulled those, so.
Okay, good.
Well, one was a clarification, but I think you had it. So the first one, the hopeful hands, is an increase, but it's just for this year only. So do we think
Correct.
that next year we will need this higher amount from them, the 125,000 or abouts over the next year?
We will probably have the same amount budgeted. Again, as you know, it's dependent on our students, and their IEP. And again, always working to see which ones we can serve back in our district. So, yeah, we'll use that as an amount that we will finalize as we move forward in 18-19.
And the same question, but I think you just mentioned the one for Maxim Healthcare. You see you're shifting money to them. So
Correct.
Away
Yeah.
from some other vendor. I'm
Right, we just
assuming.
didn't exhaust it with them, so now we're moving that amount to another agency.
Is that relatively budget neutral, or is it?
Relatively, yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And I guess my question was just, when you said, we're moving things to Maxim, so what's our process for vetting which vendors we're using for the services?
So we've worked with many of these vendors for some time. I think one of the biggest things that we've vet is those actual agency staff that are working with our students. We hear very quickly from our parents whether a specific agency staff is working with us or not, and it's actually a lot easier for us to make a change when it is an agency staff, and so we do that pretty quickly. Sometimes we do have agency staff that actually leave to other positions, and so there's turnover in it, and so we're always monitoring that in our inclusive ed department.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. So I guess I'll start all over again, and I'd like to ask for the motion to approve the consent agenda minus 4.06, 4.07 first.
You could actually just
done
do
that. We'll just
just
do
motion
4,
to
5,
approve
6,
the
and
4.
7.
Okay, I'd like to ask for the motion to approve the consent agenda 4.04, 4.05, 4.06, and 4.07.
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. All right, motion passes. 5.0, communication, and we're up to communication from the audience. And we will begin with our students first. Sure. And we will start with Claire Andreski, and then followed by Vi Tran. And as a reminder, it's 3 minutes. To the podium to my right, please. And please state your name before you begin. Thank you.
Good evening. Oh my gosh, I'm losing my voice, sorry. Dr. Watson School Board. My name is Claire Andreski, and I'm currently a sophomore at Cambridge High School. I decided to speak today to make my voice as a student heard in this time of continuing confusion in my school district. I would just like to state a few things that I have observed at my school due to the budget problems and announced RIF a while back, just to let the school district know that their past mistakes are still impacting students. The main point I would like to bring up is that I am worried for next year. It's clear to see that money has been mismanaged or misspent, and that is what led the administration to announcing a district-wide RIF. But what I don't think the administration and board understands is that this announcement created chaos and uncertainty, which is going to have a drastic impact on all Kent School District students next year. Because of this RIF, a very large amount of teachers are leaving my high school, including some of the best teachers I have ever had. In fact, the whole sophomore English team has found employment in other districts. Now, I know that a few teachers leaving may not appear to be a large problem. However, I'm sure the pattern of teacher retirement and resignation rates don't only apply to my school. Just look at the personnel reports. Sure, you can just hire new teachers, but the fact is these teachers won't have the experience, dedication, or history with the students that the amazing educators who will now be leaving have created. And to be frank, I'm not sure the most qualified individuals will be wanting to join an unstable district that is having budget issues and no clear plan to turn things around. It's too late to change many of the resigning teachers' minds, but I'd just like to say it's not too late to start communicating clearly, fixing financial issues, and creating a strong educational environment. It will most definitely be harder with many of our strong teachers gone, but I firmly believe that if communication were to be strengthened, we may find solutions for the problems we now face. This relates to the last point I'd like to note. I have not been impressed overall with the communication I've received from the school board or the administration or their leadership skills. One exception to this is Ross Hardy, though, and I'd just like to thank you for replying to my emails really promptly and asking the tough questions. Many people are continuing to say that they're rebuilding our trust and turning things around, but as one of my amazing English teachers instilled in me, a claim without solid evidence to back it up has no value. School board, please support your claim that you are rebuilding our trust and fixing these problems by providing us with examples and clearly showing that this is the case. There's no way for the students, teachers, and parents to trust future decisions or actions when there is still lack of communication and no evidence of actual progress. Thank you for allowing me to voice this opinion, and I sincerely hope that you take it to heart. Thank you for your time.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. V-Tran?
Good evening, everyone. My name is V, and I'm a freshman from Kent Meridian High School. Today I'm here to talk about the school programs and the electives. So I heard that they're cutting out some electives from all Kent School District, and in my opinion, how can we start a career without those electives? Because there's so many careers as in art, music, sewing and fashion, culinary arts, and all that. But if you guys cut that, then none of us going to have a career in that in the future. And right now, I'm taking sewing and fashion class, and my teacher, she doesn't just teach sewing and fashion. She teaches childhood exploring, life on your own, but she said she was going to get fired, and that means all those electives going to be gone. And I really want to pursue a career in sewing and fashion, but when she be gone, then I can't do that. And then with music and art, I'm also going to take art next year, but if you guys are cutting that, then there's just no career in that. And we have a really huge art program in our school. At Kent Meridian High School, we have a whole building dedicated to it, but if you guys cut that, then it's not going to be there no more. And I really hope that you guys think about if we have communication with our teachers, that we don't fire anyone because they are amazing when we get to know the teachers. And I really hope that you guys actually don't fire any of them and really take it to your mind that all of us really we're just teenagers, and we don't have some budget issues, but maybe we can work some things out that we can still keep the electives. Thank you for your time.
Right. Next is our former board director, Agda Burchard. Sorry.
Good evening, board members, and Dr. Watts. As you know, I'm Agda Burchard, and two things I wanted to share tonight is one is I want to bring you greetings from the board of the Puget Sound Educational District, and we're very much supportive and been meeting regularly with Dr. Watts and other members to help here. And I really want to also acknowledge the progress that I see you've made to restore fiscal solvency for the district, so I thank you for your hard work on that. And secondly, I've also seen an increase in your transparency and two-way communication with the community. And a couple examples of that are the State of the District conversations that happened at our high schools. and also the upcoming sessions with conversations with board members. So thank you for that, and looking forward to ending the year positively and starting out well next year.
Shannon Jeffson Hernandez, followed by Anna Andreski, and then Michelle Greenwood Bettinger, and Cheryl Walker.
Shannon Jepson Hernandez from Mill Creek Middle School. First, I'd like to talk on item number 3.03 tonight on the agenda. And the evidence-based research was phenomenal from that presentation. So when the board asks, will these kids be tracked? Or when the board asks, how will we sustain these programs because they're valuable, I wonder the exact same thing. Because the early learning director, she's riffed. So who's going to be carrying on her work? For the agenda item 3.01, it was shared that we have an 88% stay rate for our new teachers. I wonder, what will that number be next year? It was also shared we must build a capacity for an entire workforce. And it was shared, provide ways for employees to move into leadership positions if they decide to do that. But why would we want to do that if we don't have job security as leaders? Have we already forgotten the 8 APs that were riffed? It was also shared, each of us hopes to have a mentor in our lives to provide that impact. Well, I'm here to say, I have that. Her name is Charlene Pritchard. She grew up here in KSD. She was an exceptional educator for 15 years. And then she chose to move into that leadership position that you suggested tonight for the last 2 years. She is my evaluator and she is my mentor. You said that we all want. In fact, that table and punch out there and those cookies, they're here to celebrate her and the many others.
Ms. Hernandez, we'd ask you to refrain from mentioning names, please.
I won't mention any more. But those are out there to celebrate her as the AP Employee of the Year for Kent School District. But she is also one of those who are riffed. So I fail to understand why we would let go of highly qualified lifetime members of KSD to now report on a professional development program for generating employees with the exact same qualifications as the ones that we're giving away to other school districts. Congratulations to the brainchild of that decision. It's about as smart as transferring the AP out of iGrad. The most costly decisions are the ones made from inexperience and never translates to dollars saved. The interest rate of inexperience builds a debt of problems from dollars to loss of our most qualified staff. On April 21st, the superintendent said in a presentation that you can watch on YouTube, at the 18-minute mark, we can choose not to act. I totally agree. So why are we choosing not to act? See the face tattoo right here and my little poop emoji bracelet? These are from today's return from Scenic Hills 6th grade 3-day camp where I chaperoned voluntarily in order to develop student-teacher relationships with my future students. According to John Hattie's evidence-based research, student-teacher relationships are one of the top indicators for student success. At Mill Creek, we use evidence-based research and data to drive all of our decisions. On May 3rd, I took 26 students to WE Day to celebrate their 25-hour average student involvement in service and community building. May 12th, I joined teachers and neighbors in cleaning up Mill Creek Earthworks Park. Tomorrow, I will complete my 50th day this year of after-school homework and support and mentoring. From 4:10 to 5:10 tomorrow, I will host STEM Academy. Last Saturday, I got to clap and cheer for KM's actors. I supported the Scenic Hill Science Fair, and next Tuesday, we are hosting Mill Creek's first ever Humanity Film Festival and dinner, where you all may come and join us in making homeless kits with our students. The point is, I could stand up here and rattle off a resume of good deeds, but it is not an excuse for inaction. In fact, all of these people here do the exact same things I do, but I don't want a cookie for it. And none of this is our job. We do it because we believe in building student-teacher relationships.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm just going to say, we need experienced people and we need to choose to act.
Hi, good evening, Dr. Watts and school board. My name is Anna Andreski, and I am the mom of 2 kids in the Kent School District. One of them who I'm very proud of for speaking tonight, even with a sore throat. And I'm proud of the Kent teachers who taught Claire to be so articulate. I can't help but think of the importance of her 2nd grade teachers who had their their 60 students stand up in front of a microphone and do sharing and show and tell several times during that second grade year. I think it paid off tonight that she could get up and do that. I'd like to thank all the dedicated and brave community members who have spoken at past board meetings to be sure the needs of Kent students are put first in district decisions. The first board meeting I watched was the one where Mill Creek students spoke about the importance of their teachers and school community. The first board meeting I attended was the last one where the courageous students of iGrad spoke of how they were succeeding in their program. I'm here to ask verbally of Dr. Watts and the rest of the administration and the school board to spend time in our schools. I started writing letters to Dr. Watts last spring when the spending freeze was implemented. I asked the administration to come to buildings, even going so far as to ask that they cover substitute jobs on days that there is a shortage of teachers and office staff. I've subbed the last 3 years in various Kent elementary and middle schools and gained a perspective of the challenges, the positives, and those areas that should be improved. I believe you cannot make the best decisions for our students unless you spend time in the classroom working alongside the students and staff. Thank you, Ross Hardy and Karen DeBruler, for answering my emails requesting that you show up in our schools and taking the time to do so. I have to wonder if our district would be in such a state of chaos if the district administrators would have spent more time working and instructing in our school buildings. Would the iGrad program have been dismissed so easily if administrators would have volunteered to tutor students striving to graduate? Would kindergartners be subjected to developmentally inappropriate iReady testing if administrators had spent a few days in a kindergarten room? Would the teacher my son was scheduled to have in 6th grade next year have decided to keep teaching another year or 2 or 3 instead of retiring the end of this year if our district was stable? Would teachers and district administrators begin working as a team if administrators came and joined some art, math, or language art lessons? So Dr. Watts, you mentioned wanting to build trust back brick by brick last meeting. You did lose my trust when I saw how the RIF was announced. Your announcement of the RIF caused many of our best and brightest to seek jobs in other districts or retire early. And talent like theirs will be difficult to recruit. I believe the way to have a strong district is to recruit dedicated teachers and retain them. You can start trying to gain back my trust by spending time in the schools, working with students, and helping the principals. I'll end by thanking those teachers, administrators, board members, and volunteers who truly have the best interest of our kids at heart. You people are my team KSD.
I'm Michelle Greenwood-Bettinger. Thank you for letting me speak. First, I'd like to congratulate Kent Ridge Drama's production of Spamalot and Kent Lake's production of Little Mermaid for all their Fifth Avenue Theater High School musical nominations and honorable mentions. I've heard requests from the dais asking for solutions, and I'm here today to provide one. I fully support Director Hardy's suggestions at the May 9th regular school board meeting to include community comment in the school board's evaluation of the superintendent's job performance. I spent several years focused on coaching and facilitating effective goal setting and performance evaluation sessions when I worked in HR. In order to make sure my experience aligned with the board's framework, I attended the evaluation work session on May 16 presented by Colleen Miller, the director of L&D at the Washington State School Directors Association. Ms. Miller encouraged community feedback and counseled the board to consider that what happens in the district reflects on the superintendent's job performance. After that meeting, I submitted a records request, was given the rubric used by the school board when making this evaluation. I created an online tool for stakeholders to respond anonymously. Let me make this clear, this is not a self-designed free-for-all. Instead, it is a tool for collecting stakeholder feedback towards the superintendent's evaluation in a framework that matches the board's rubric so the data is relevant to the board's task. In best practice, job evaluations are not based on personality, feelings, or perceptions, but should be based solely on verifiable facts, evidence, behavior, and impact as it relates to the established goals within the accepted rubric. It is a tool to ensure proper acknowledgement of job performance successes and a record plan to address failures or areas for improvement. Facts and evidence should be the only measure to assess whether a goal was completed and to measure the level of completion. Level of completion is as simple as asking, did the expected job performance occur in a sufficient and proficient manner? The agreed-upon schedule for the school board's evaluation is May 30. The superintendent presents evidence to the school board. June 6th, the board evaluation reports are due to the board president to be compiled. June 11th, the board meets with the superintendent to perform the evaluation. The only date not scheduled is an executive session with only the board present to reach consensus on each item as per the requirements of the rubric. I'm confident the board has this well in hand, and such a session will occur sometime between June 6 and 10. The stakeholder feedback tool is up and running now and will close on June 2 with feedback results posted to the public and emailed to the board simultaneously on June 4. This will give 2 days before the individual board evaluations are due and a full week before the board and superintendent meet. The platform provides anonymity, follows the school board's established rubric, and easily shared. I encourage everyone in this room to participate. I can only provide the tool for the community to comment within the board's framework, and I was happy to put the time in to do so. It is up to the board to decide whether they will use the feedback the stakeholders provide or not. The link is live now. It's at SurveyMonkey. I have it on my paper. I'll tell anyone who wants it at the end of the day, and I'm posting it everywhere. Please share. Thank you.
Members of the board, Dr. Watts, my name is Sherelle Walker. I live in the Northwood area. I've recently been reading some interesting information in the newspaper about our school district. I'm very proud of this school district, but the information that I've been reading was pretty alarming. So I'll talk about two of those issues that I read about. The first one dealt with budget. I was in public education for 30 years. I served as an assistant superintendent. And I can tell you there wasn't a year where we didn't talk about budget issues. There wasn't a year in some of the areas where we didn't have to make cuts. Educators are very good at adding things, but we're not very good at taking things away. And those are the things that we usually hear about and we feel need to be there. You can't continue to keep things and then add more things and expect your budget really to balance. Those things usually don't work out very well. The teacher corps here is excellent. What you're doing in your schools and your classrooms is excellent. But we all have to realize that a budget is built so that we can do the things we need to do. One of the shortfalls, of course, is that the state really doesn't completely fund public education and never has. So even the money that you are now receiving, it's money that you'll have to use to catch up. And it's catching up of years and years of not having the funds that you really needed to have in place. So when we talk about budget, just realize, and the public needs to realize that too, that fully funding education is important, and until we get to that point, school districts are going to constantly have to deal with cuts and changes. The other issue that I found very interesting was one about conflict of interest for the superintendent. And this focused on him attending as a consultant at a meeting somewhere, I don't know where that was. But let me share a little bit about that kind of involvement. As an assistant superintendent, I spent time going to these kinds of meetings because this is where superintendents, assistant superintendents, and directors hear from other people about what they're doing in their district. You get an opportunity to share what's happening in your district, but you also get to learn from vendors who are actually selling products to school districts and helping them change how those products actually can work. Now I'm going to shift to the other side of that table. Because after 30 years in public education, I went on to work in private industry. One of the companies I worked for was Pearson Education. It's one of the largest education companies in the world. And I served as a vice president there. And we were constantly asking superintendents and others in school districts to come to us, to help us understand the kinds of things that we needed to do to make sure that our products were very helpful. The most recent company that I left was in California, and it focused on brain research. We constantly had superintendents and others coming to know about brain research. And all of that is to say, I hope you continue to encourage your staff to attend these kinds of meetings, because this is where superintendents and others learn. Schools can't exist in a vacuum, and nor can their administration. And before I leave, and I know my time is up, I can't ever leave a podium without giving you some information about how the brain functions. So let me do this. As we age, there are 3 things that we really just need to think about doing as we get older. One of those things is, if you like puzzles, do more puzzles. Enjoy them, do them regularly. The second thing is journal. If you like to write about something. The third thing is learn something new. Whether it's instrument you're going to play or a new language, these are 3 things that keep the brain cognitively active as you age. And I say that because I'm a descendant of an Alzheimer's patient. So keep in mind that we can be cognitively active throughout our lives. Thank you.
Thank you. And just a reminder to keep all comments free from any reference to any individuals, and just keep them solely focused on issues. Thank you.
Karen Cloy, followed by Gabrielle Blakemore, Zach Stockdale, and then Gwen Dupree would be our last speaker.
My name's Karen Cloy, and good evening. Thank you, Board and Dr. Watts, for having us tonight. I have a few different items that I would like to discuss. Sue's Creek Elementary is due up for a multi-purpose building, and the multi-purpose building blueprint has no bathrooms. How can you have a multi-purpose building with no bathrooms, place for the kids to go, or wash their hands for a lunch? It's where they're going to eat lunch. So I don't know who makes these decisions, but I would really have you reevaluate it, because where the building's going is a little bit further away from where the bathrooms are for the gym. And the kids are elementary age. They squirrel. They will take their time, and they only have 20, 25 minutes to eat, which if they go to the bathroom, their time's gone. So I encourage you to evaluate that blueprint that you guys have out for their new building. The second thing I would like to ask is the 2016 levy updates have been updated to where they will not be done until 2023 and 24, which is what, 7, 8 years after these levies passed. Is every single levy going to take 8 to 10 years to get the projects done? Because these are maintenance issues too with different areas of the school. So my other question too is the move-up days for the kids for 6th grade and 8th grade. I want to tell you how important these move-up days are for them, because they're all looking forward to it. My one son got to do move-up day, my next son will not. Everyone keeps referring back to these days, the evenings they can go visit their new schools. There's so many kids in the district that don't even come to our events in the evening at their own schools, let alone truck to their new school to go check it out. You know, these move-up days are important, and you need to really try to figure out where we can find the money to support them, because they are important for everyone around. It had been brought up that the PTAs could try to pay for them. Not all schools have PTAs, so they're not going to be able to fund it for some of the other schools that don't have it. My third thing is the community meetings. I found it to be a waste of time because there were no questions answered. You go onto the page on the district website, and it shows all the questions we asked, copied and pasted into one big document, I'm pretty sure, and graphs of what it was. No questions were answered. So where's the communication, the two-way communication from these meetings? I'm kind of worried about it would be my waste of time to go to the board members' meetings, but I'm still going to go to see if something has changed. I understand my time's up and I'm almost done too. So I mean, my time's important. You know, everyone works, and I'm rushing to school board meetings after work, literally leaving my family. What do you got going on tonight? Because this is important. These kids are important. And you guys really need to communicate, because the communication wasn't there. So I'm really hoping you guys, when I do go to these meetings, that really will be communication. Thank you.
Zach Stockdale.
Good evening. Good evening.
Oh, sorry. Gabrielle.
Hi. Yeah. I'm Gabrielle Blakemore. I am a teacher at Northwood Middle School. I teach science and robotics. Thank you for having me aboard, Dr. Watts. I was here to address item 3.01, professional development. I had some concerns hearing this presentation. I have had most of my professional development opportunities canceled this year. I'm a pretty young teacher, and a big part of the reason I became a teacher is I am a lifelong learner. I love to learn new things, and I constantly want to improve my practice. I can't do that with the limited professional development offered. As I hear this new plan, some concerns I have is, one, this building-centric idea really limits me as a science teacher. When am I going to get a chance to meet with the rest of the science departments in Kent? My department is wonderful. I get to bounce ideas off them every day, all day, but I need a greater range. I'm also concerned, as I was hearing about these professional development councils, where are community partners on these councils? There were some amazing presentations. I was so excited to hear trauma-informed practices. Oh my goodness, if I could have like those professional developments offered to me, that would be amazing. That's exactly what I want to do as a teacher. But those things are not exactly offered to me at my school. And right now, professional development doesn't look like they're going to offer it to me anyways, and like, it worries me. It also does not maintain me as a teacher in Kent. I have to keep up my certification. Not only do I enjoy learning and enjoy professional development, I need it to continue to legally teach. In fact, I need STEM hours, as most people need STEM hours to continue to legally teach. There was no mention of STEM-based professional development in that presentation, and that is extremely concerning. To maintain and grow in not just adequate, but words, I'm sorry. But to maintain and grow a staff that's really going to like help and develop our children, you need to make sure that you're actually teaching them. So please consider, as we're going to the next year, expanding community involvement in the professional development councils and expanding professional development in general. Thank you.
Ms. Blakemore, I wanted to apologize. I didn't notice that you had mentioned you'd like to speak during the agenda item. Thank you for waiting.
Hi, Dr. Watts and the board, thank you. Zach Stockdale, teacher at Kent Meridian. A couple of things, I feel like I had a laundry list, but they're all smaller ones. I want to point out, I did reach out to the Chief Human Resource Officer, because we're not using names, when I had seen her initial PowerPoint that was posted to the board doc. And so I did ask some of these kind of questions, and I believe she made some comments about wanting to talk to me if I didn't have my questions answered, but I did want to point out one counterpoint. She did talk about less subs. We have less subs. That has meant for me this year, this is 9th year in Kent, 9th or 10th year in Kent. This is the least amount of PD that I've been able to access in my time here. Right now, I'm glad that Gabby mentioned science. Next year I have to teach NGSS chemistry. I don't know what that is yet, really. I've tried to. No, there is no curriculum written. We're kind of writing our own, sort of based off some stuff we're getting from California. I get 3 days to do that. For the district, and we're trying to kind of work together, and we have a Canvas page, there's some online stuff. My next meeting's on the 5th, so there's 3 days of training. I haven't even finished all 3 of them yet. The first one this year was the first time I'd actually been trained by the district on NGSS standards. So, I mean, yes, there's less PD, we're saving some money, but it's meant less PD. I know that Shannon Heckles-Miller, the coordinator for science, has worked very hard to move stuff around. My building principals have moved very hard to try and get us stuff. What ends up happening is I actually lose building PD because a lot of it is happening on Wednesdays during the early releases, on the principal-directed early releases. So I'm losing that building level PD to try and get in the district level PD and try and save some cash. So that's been a problem. Also, I was kind of, that executive summary she kept referring to, is that available? Because I would love to read it, because the version on the PowerPoint was just the PowerPoint. So it sounded really interesting, full of information that I'd love to know. Next one, iGrad. I am concerned that there's been 0 additional comments or communications about that. The little bit I've heard sounds like you're still taking away one of their assistant principals. You're still going from a 12-hour school to the more traditional model, which I think defeats the purpose of iGrad and the kids they reach. Because KM, we send a lot of kids, our high needs kids, a lot of them end up in iGrad, otherwise they're dropping out. I've had one of the speakers last year, I had him as a freshman, and I know last week. I know the needs that he had freshman year, and I'm so glad to see him in iGrad. And the thought of anything happening in that program to reduce it just kills me. Second, it's hot today. I know most of you guys have been to KM. I love KM, but the windows there suck in the main building. Frankly, no, they're single pane glass. They renovated my classroom in 2011. They took the windows, single pane, I don't think you guys have been in my room. I have 10-foot windows. Beautiful, lots of sunlight, single pane glass, 1950s era, they had to worry about asbestos. They took those bad boys out, they renovated 3 classrooms, it's really great, I love the renovation, and then they put those windows back in. They broke one panel, so I have 1 new panel. They're still single pane glass. I went up to the 2nd floor yesterday. One of the classrooms on the 2nd floor was 10 degrees hotter than my classroom. During the winter, I have a 10 degrees temperature gradient, and that's working with the custodians and the staff and all that kind of stuff. Those were originally told that those would be modified sooner. Right now, the current promises kept page puts those at 2223 is when the KM main building is getting new windows. That's been an issue for the last 50 years at KM. So I had some others, but my time's up. I promised someone I'd say we're very concerned about the IE losses at the district level and the lack of just the sheer, I lost my vocab. Knowledge of how the district works that's walking out the door, and that you have a bunch of new people going to come in and have to learn all the ropes, and what that's going to do to both the services for our students and to our teachers for IE. That's a concern. Thank you guys. I'm sorry I went over.
Good evening, Dr. Watts, board members. I'm here again. My name is Gwen Dupree, and I am a community member. I did work on the strategic plan about 2 or 3 years ago, and I hope I'm accepted again to work on it. I just wanted to applaud you for the 2 presentations with the Kent Education Equity Partnership. Just keep it. And also with the P3 Executive Leadership Certification Program. How goes those programs goes the district. Since I've been in this district 40 plus years, it has changed tremendously in terms of the geographic and the ethnic participation. If those programs are not successful, then Kent School District is not going to be here. I've heard a couple of people say new teachers will not want to come. And what brings new teachers in are the present teachers. Some of the things that I've heard, that we don't have toilet paper in our school. And I know that, I don't know if that's true. But I tell you, I got a lot of phone calls from friends saying, what's going on in Kent? They don't have toilet paper? If we don't give out good information about our district, who's going to want to come here? Who is going to want to come and teach? And that change of teachers happen all the time. I remember when I first started teaching, we needed to have room. I mean, somebody had to either leave or go someplace else, or I wouldn't have gotten a job. So, there's some good and bad to that. But I tell you, if you don't have publicized what's good in your district and what you're doing, because I know you're doing good things. My 3 kids went through this district, and I can tell you they are doing very well, then you're not going to get good teachers. And I tell you, if you don't start working out the problems here by working together instead of just wanting to get rid of this person and that person because you don't like something they've done, I encourage you as teachers, try to work it through. You do it all the time. In some form of relationship, you are working your problems out. Work with this board, because from everything the few times I've been here and I've heard the things that they do, what I've heard from about Dr. Watts. You have a really good administrative board. You just may not realize it because I don't know. I know some of you worked other places. If there's some changes that need to be made, talk about those changes. I mean, I'm just going to encourage you. Encourage you to do that, because just getting rid of people and getting rid of stuff is not going to be the answer. It's not going to go away. And once that happens, then the next thing, well, maybe we need to get rid of you. Oh, come on now. Let's work together. I listened to that minister when in the royal wedding, and what did he say? Try to follow some of those things, and I bet you'll be at the top. If you don't feel like you're at the top, you'll be there. Okay? Thank you very much. Have a good
day. We are up to our legislative update. Thank you for all the comments, and Ross Hardy.
Sure. Well, our legislators still aren't in session. They don't plan to be for a while. But there's some updates from the State Board of Education and OSPI in general. As we talk about community forums, the State Board of Education is holding their own community forum June 20th at 6 to 8 p.m. It is all the way up in Seattle on the UW campus. Purpose of the event is to gather ideas and recommendations as the State Board of Education drafts its strategic plan in September. And anybody can come and you can attend. Don't specifically know the process for community input, but it's a community forum. So if you can't get up there, June 20th, 6 to 8 p.m. on the UW campus, go ahead. And I wanted to share an update, and I apologize, I'm going to have to read some quotes directly. I think within the past couple weeks, there was the Superintendent of Public Instruction announced that the state is formally adopting new educational technology learning standards. Talking about students being digital natives, we need to prepare them for their ever-growing technology-powered world. And the International Society for Technology and Education developed these standards for students, supposedly used all over the world, that are very aspirational about what we want for our students' futures. And so this is where I'm going to read a quote from Superintendent Reckdahl. Transforming education for the digital age means thinking critically about how much we learn and teach. These educational technology standards are here to empower our state's innovative educators and administrators to reimagine their schools and classrooms for today's digital landscape and inspire students to become digital citizens and computational thinkers. Each of the standards describes how students can demonstrate learning in this new education technology standards. For example, student using digital tools to connect with learners from a variety of backgrounds and cultures and engage them in ways that broaden mutual understanding and learning. So to note, these are now formally adopted statewide standards. That's my update.
All right. We will go next to Superintendent's Report, please. Dr. Watts.
Yes, thank you, President Vengadaslam, members of the board, Ms. Howley, community, staff, and friends. I want to read from one of my favorite books, but one that one of our staff members shared with me not too long ago, written by a man and author, Don Miguel Ruiz, called The Four Agreements. I think it's important for us to, as a community, to think about what we say, why we say it, and what our intentions are. Just as important, what our impact can be based on the words, the thoughts, the actions, the relationships we build. First of the four agreements, he writes, be impeccable with your word. Speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. Second, don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. 3, don't make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and drama. With just this one agreement, he says, you can completely transform your life. And 4, always do your best. Your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you're healthy as opposed to sick. Under any circumstance, simply do your best, and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. These are the agreements that I work tirelessly, and while I am not perfect, and none of us is, to be impeccable with my word, to not take anything personally, to not make assumptions, to always do our best. We will be a better organization because each one of us will be a better person. It's going to take something as simple and as complex as that. Which leads me to some misinformation that I'm going to take some time throughout these upcoming board meetings to share information that is grounded in truth, that shares information that may debunk some myths or demystify what is being said that may not necessarily be completely factual. This is about iGrad. There was a board meeting that took place not too long ago where I heard that iGrad was going away. I can only speak for myself. I know I've never said that iGrad was going away. In fact, I've never said to our board that iGrad was going away. I've never said to our amazing principal, who I know had to leave just a few moments ago, Carol Cleveland, that iGrad was going away. In fact, the truth is, the summer of 17-18, iGrad will operate a summer program. Students will be able to continue their academic pathways by way of open doors legislation, which is Washington State's legislation that provides support for re-engagement of students who have dropped away from high school ages 16 to 21. They will continue to receive academic, social, and applied learning. That's aligned with our blueprint, our strategic plan. In 2018-19, partnerships that are currently established with organizations such as Goodwill, Green River Community College, and United Way will continue. In fact, we are also considering additional partnerships with the likes of post-secondary institutions like Renton Technical College. Students will continue their academic re-engagement work. And finally, Kent School District will continue to review and assess all appropriate options, particularly academic options for re-engaged youth in 2019-2020 school year and beyond. That is our pledge. That is our promise. Will iGrad look exactly the same as it does today? There are reasons that we'll continue to share that it will likely not. Will the services that we're providing still continue? Excuse me. Thank you. Will the services continue? Yes, they will. That concludes my report. Thank you for listening. More information will be coming.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm pleased that you mentioned 4 agreements. I've had that book for years. It was given to me by my mentee. I was a teacher mentor, and she was my mentee. There's a student that I had when she was in 3rd grade in Issaquah. She's now 21 years old. She moved to India, back to India when she was in 4th grade. She's reconnected with me on Facebook because, on the messaging, because she's been having some social emotional problems. And so she and I have been working these things out. And I guided her to the 4 Agreements book, and she and I have been discussing the 4 Agreements. Also, my mentee, who is reclaiming credits, the last time I met with her, she said, I've been doing some reading, which is unique, and I'm pleased. And she said, I read a book called The Four Agreements. And I said, oh my gosh, you're kidding. So I've been writing to her and sending her quotes from the Four Agreements and just saying how this applies to her. So Four Agreements is really, they are really important. And that's where my assumption came from, my assumption suggestion. I'm going to circle back around. Right now, I'm going to talk about things that I have I've done. I went to the KAC PTSA Founders Day dinner. That was a lot of fun, and I think they probably raised a lot of money for scholarships, so that was great. Went to Kentwood's Much Ado About Nothing. Very impressed with the Shakespearean language that those kids all learned. It was so impressive, and I'm so glad they had the program telling scene by scene exactly what was going on, because it really helped me. I went to Lake Young's to Mrs. Paulson's first grade class with the art docent lesson where they were doing a guided drawing, and they used colored pencils, watercolored pencils, and it was really interesting to watch first graders working. They worked for 2 hours on that art lesson. I also went to Kent Meridian to see Neil Simon's Rumors, and oh my gosh, that was incredible. Those kids, the timing on, I mean, it's a farce, but timing on their words and their actions was just delightful. It was laugh out loud. Wade Behringer was there right behind me, and he was there like, I think his second or third time, and he was laughing out loud still. And he said, watch this kid. And so we did. There were several of the kids were just total standouts, but they were all really, really good. I've done some judging of senior oral presentations at KPA. I did some today. I did some last Wednesday. I always love seeing their journeys presented to us, and the fact that some of these kids have gone through, I'll just say hell. They've gone through hell in their lives, and they are graduating as seniors, and they have plans to move on, is incredible to me. The spirit is just incredible. I went to the Men on the Move celebration. That was also very moving. Our young men of color stood up, were asked to talk without really being prepared to talk, which was part of their training. But they really talked about their social emotional learning and their self-awareness. And it's a great program. It's a great program. Last night, I attended the Kent Rotary Scholarship Scholar Awards celebration, and again, just it's amazing what our kids can do. Really, really, really. The last thing I want to say is that yesterday I got an email. Person identified herself as a KSD teacher. My sweet little departed grandma would have called it ugly. There was name calling in it, multiple things of name calling. There were threats. And I thought, you know what? This is not civil. This is not okay. We're all frustrated. I understand that. But it's not okay to call names. And it's not okay to target people. And I know I'm not the only one. There are other people that have had that happen to them too. So please remember that we have a civility procedure. When you're dealing with people, we can talk. Please, let's talk. Let's be respectful. Let's see if we can come up with some solutions in a polite and respectful way.
Well, over the last couple weeks, as you've actually heard, I've been out visiting several schools. Went to Meadow Ridge Elementary for the first time, wonderful visit. Talking with the team there about what they need, seeing that they're putting a focus on reading at each kid's level, not just making sure that they fit into whatever grade level they're in, but really about helping them develop a culture of reading for enjoyment, whatever that is. And actually talking about how they're adjusting their library resources to accommodate that, to getting more books that are maybe at the right level for the kids, but of more topics of interest, whatever that is. Where they help also stress the importance of, a lot of it's the teacher relationships that are keeping kids in school, but this is even at the elementary school level. have a lot of kids coming in with a lot of various life circumstances. We're seeing changes that we didn't see 5 years ago. And that as that continues, as things happen that we can't change, that we got to make sure that we basically keep those teacher relationships with those kids. Again, got to go to what's becoming my new favorite place, which is Mill Creek Middle School. I got to take a nice tour, talk to a lot of the teachers and staff, because I really wanted making sure that they making sure that they have heard what they need during their leadership transition and mitigating the loss of any teachers at that school beyond what maybe has already happened. Because what they're really talking about doing, focusing on social, emotional, and behavioral health and wellness, and that is their focus for training and development above a fixed academic mindset. And really just walking around Mill Creek Middle School, you can see what would it really mean for a safety and security plan that has equitable resources. What do they need versus what other schools need? The school that's right across the street from me, things like that. And a very good thing I got to see for the first time, they have a very effective TA program in their counseling office, and got to see students that are there mainly the beginning of the day, but still working that as part of their TA program. And as I think about all that, what I said last time, I mean, I'll reiterate, there are very important board-specific duties on our plate between now and the end of the school year, say over the next 3 to 4 weeks. Still going to play the new card, saying I don't necessarily know all that we're supposed to be doing, what we've done in the past, what I can and cannot say at various times. But I would, reiterate what I've said before. We got to prioritize what we do, how we spend our time, because we have roles that are just for us. We are the ones solely charged with doing these roles. I'm doing it for the first time. I want to make sure I do it right. Now is the time. Budget, superintendent evaluation, we're the only ones that can do that. We've got to make sure that we do it together as a team. And I'll mention, we have our board community conversations coming up, and I'll kind of add, it's just going to be us. It's you, it's us. I'm not going to wear a jacket. It's just going to be us sitting around, no dais, just the fire code that limits how many people can show up. So you can talk to us. Now, I noticed that I don't know if it's because I'm the newest or the most eager, but I'll be at 2 of them. So, hey, come see me twice or one or the other, whichever it is. Tell your friends, put it wherever it is, and come see us in early June.
So I also wanted to mention the Kent Rotary last night. It was very inspiring to hear. We got to hear from one student who is being recognized from each of the high schools, and to hear their stories and the things that they share was very inspiring. I particularly liked, there was one gentleman who spoke about being able to help others, and how getting out of the box and looking outside of our own shadows and being able to go forward. So also earlier tonight, we recognized our Employees of the Year for Kent, which is always a wonderful opportunity to recognize a select few out of all the many that do so much for our district. And then we also had earlier tonight, at the beginning of our board meeting, we got to recognize our Soames award winners for the year. And I know that's a little bit of a change from in the past, where we've done it just as a surprise at the individual graduations. And part of the reason for that is to help our students be able to get those funds that they were awarded in time for the fall. So that was the reason for the change for doing it here. But again, it was nice to be able to recognize those students. I know on kind of a personal level, there's been things that have been happening in the last few little bits in my life that make me realize how important it is to really appreciate those around you, and to not make assumptions of what people are trying to do. Because I've seen recently in some examples that I won't share, how assumptions have greatly impacted people's lives outside of this area, right? So personally, and how important it is to work together and to really let those around you know how much you appreciate them. And so I did want to end with letting everyone know, those of us of the close to 4,000 employees that work for our district, how much we appreciate the work that you do, and how much you do impact our children in a positive way. So thank you for what you do.
Thank
Debbie. All right. I will just start with some of the events that I went to. First, want to thank Kentridge, Dr. Watts, and Washington Alliance for Washington Alliance for Better Schools, thank you, for inviting Mr. Lonnie Johnson, who's a mentor and engineer, to come out to speak to our students. And, you know, very often when you're sitting in the back of the school presentations, you get to see the reactions of our students. And I think we need more uplifting, inspiring discussions such as that to encourage our students to never give up. And so I thank the school for bringing that up. And I wanted to also thank our elementary honors band and our orchestra program at Kent Lake. Thank you to the Kent Schools Foundation for sponsoring part of that. And just want to also bring up Rotary and all the work that they do, continue to do, and the scholarships that they provide for our students, and thank them for that. I did want to say, due to some family issues, I was unable to attend the PTA Scholarship Awards or scholarship event, and I truly want to thank all of our families for the support that they provide to our district, as with all of our partners. And I want to bring up our community conversation. The dates are June 5th, June 9th, and June 12th. Additional details are on our website. These will be community conversations with the board, and there have been a lot of questions as to how it would be structured, whether you'd be able to get answers to all the questions. I will say this, I don't think any of us as board members want to hide anything from our public, so we will be as frank as we can with the information that we have. You may have questions that we may not be able to answer, in which case we will have to get back to you. That's quite possible. I do want to say that want to address the community input to the superintendent evaluation. I know that Director Hardy brought that up at the last board meeting. Our process has been, and this is in consultation with our council, our process has been to follow specific tool, assessment tool for evaluation of Dr. Watts, and we are going to stick to that process this year. We can't change that process in the mid-year or towards the end of the year. So starting next year, we will be meeting during the summer retreat to kind of rethink our process based on a work session we had with Colleen Miller at WASDA. And there are things that we have to discuss, even not just Dr. Watts' evaluation, but how we assess ourselves on the board. There are questions that have come up during the board assessment as well. And we have to really think about how we're going to move together as a unit. So we have a lot of work to do this summer, and I just want to assure you the fact that we are not going to consider the community input necessarily doesn't mean that we won't have our own evaluation, we won't have our own thinking process. But it's not something that's built into our current evaluation process. So I want to state that very clearly because I know it'll come up during community conversations. And if there are questions you can share that you may want to ask us ahead of time, I think that would be helpful as well. Not that we want to think ahead with the responses and have responses that are set in advance. But we'll be happy to answer as much as we can, okay? And so those dates and information will be on our website. And I think with that, we are going to adjourn. And thank you all for coming tonight.